This is going to be the definitive exercise on understanding how to use the online unemployment insurance fund. So please, let's continue. Laura, thank you.
Thank you, Ivor. Okay, just a bit of background on the actual guide and the need for the guide to be adapted. I've been involved with this process for almost 3 weeks. I'm also a small business owner, and a lot of people contacted me. My accountant contacted me, and there was very general basic computer knowledge that a lot of people did not have. And I think in the guides that was issued by the UIF initially, assumptions were made that people would know how to change basic computer settings. And in terms of that, that is why a lot of applications were rejected because of date formats, people not being sure how to use the pipe eliminators. And that's basically what this guide is intended for, is just to give people feedback in terms of setting computer settings, how to use the template, the different fields, the data requirements in the fields. A lot of you might know some of these things already, so I'm going to ask you to be patient as we go through it. This guide is also not intended just for professional people, but also for the guys on the street who's not used to submitting their own applications. They normally have accountants. A lot of accountants has told their employers or the people that they are doing the submissions that they're not going to assist them. It's a very long and complicated process. So a lot of people has been left on their own to try and sort this out, and that's basically where this guide is coming from. And it will be made available to the public free of charge after the session, and you are also welcome to share it with anybody that's in need to use this guide. So there's a lot of interference.
Right. There is a lot of background noise. And because of that background noise, we're going to ask everybody, please, to mute your microphone. Laura, if you could please unmute your microphone.
Thank you, Ivan.
Right.
So basic information, just in terms of general information, when you are going to, once you've completed your information, okay, once you've completed your CSV file, which we'll go into later, just general information, when you are going to submit your application online, the recommended browsers is Chrome and Firefox. I'm not sure if everybody has got the UIF reference numbers. This was also a big problem because you pay your levies over to SARS, and you normally have a U number that's linked to that pay-as-you-earn payment. The UIF is in
Gou net 'n ander extra een kry.
The UIF is in the interim linked with SARS, and if you do not have your the correct UIF number, which is the 8-digit number, I'm going to show you the next step, and this is where you'll be able to find your UIF number. Sorry, I just want to go to the next screen. Okay, so if you don't have your UIF reference number, which is the 8-digit number, you can follow this link to the UIF site. You'll only need to click on get your UIF reference number. And if you click on get the number, it will be displayed immediately. This has really been fantastic. Everybody's been scrambling to try and get hold of this 8-digit number. You cannot submit your claim without this number. In any documentation that you will be submitting to SARS, you have to use this 8-digit number. Okay, so currently the documents where we're standing at this point in time in terms of your online application would be the Excel template that was sent 2 weeks ago. This template's being changed from the original template. And as we go through the template, I will discuss each of the fields with you. The other document that you would need for your online application would also be your confirmation of your employer bank account details. As far as we know, they have said that you do not need a certified copy. So as long as you've got a confirmation of your bank account details, those are the documents that you will need to submit. The other document we'll also make available is the online step-by-step guide that was prepared for submitting your application online. I think there is quite a lot of copies available, but I think I'll just concur with Ivor. Ivor, are we also going to make that available after the presentation for those who do not have this copy?
Laura, we're going to make everything that we've got available as part of the package from this presentation.
Okay, thank you. All right, so when we say document checklist for online application, obviously you're going to need to complete your Excel template. But once you've completed the template, you will only need to submit the CSV file. I'm going to mention at this point in time, if you have a small payroll and you're an employer that's got less than 10 employees, if you find that you still struggle with the CSV file after and you've tried to convert your CSV file and you're still experiencing problems, I'm going to advise you to rather submit your employees line by line, but we'll get to that later. But the intention with this guide is so that you do not struggle with a CSV file, so that we can sort it out so that when you're going to submit your next application, you will have the basic information captured already in your template, which you can then just submit and convert for your second application. All right, so your document checklist for your online, we've got the employee details, which is the CSV file, your confirmation of bank details, which you will also need to complete online, the guide, and then something that's fallen away is the MOA and the letter of undertaking. I also want to make clear at this point in time that I'm not going to be discussing any bargaining councils MOAs. The user guide is basically set up for employers and accountants who are struggling. So I do not unfortunately have any answers for anybody on bargaining councils. And the MOA here that we will be referring to and the letter of undertaking forms part of the online process. You do not need to submit that separately. You'll need to accept that each document electronically online before you'll be able to proceed to the next step.
Laura, can I just come in here and say this? Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, could you also turn off your cameras, please? And please mute your microphones. That's the first thing. Let me answer your question about the bargaining councils. So far, there are two bargaining councils, the Clothing and Textile Bargaining Council on the one hand, and the other hand is the Metal and Engineering Industries Bargaining Council that have accepted on behalf of their members the responsibility for applying to the UIF and then making the UIF Temporary Employee Relief Fund, getting the funds from the Temporary Employee Relief Fund, and then making those funds available to companies which then apply back for those funds on behalf of the employees which are signed up with those respective bargaining councils. Outside of that, even if you are in a bargaining council sector or industry, what you should do is just try and contact your bargaining council to determine whether or not they are signing their own MOA. But invariably, if they've not informed you, then they haven't signed an MOA, which means you're entitled to apply directly rather than going through your bargaining council.
Thank you, Ivor. Okay, for first-time users, and I'm going to ask the people who has submitted or who has gone through some of these processes just to bear with us. There are a lot of people who has not submitted, so we do have some recommendations for first-time users. Obviously, we're going to be sending you the master file, which is the copy of the National Disaster Payment Excel template. It's recommended that you keep that in a master file, especially if you'll be submitting more than one application. So you'll use that, and then the next recommendation is for you to create a folder for yourself for your own submission, and then to copy that template into your own folder, just so that you know that you've got an additional copy and the integrity of your master file is not compromised in any way. So obviously, before you can populate the template, you will need to do specific computer settings, and I think this is where most of the people struggled, in terms of the pipe delimiter, commas being in places where they shouldn't be, the date format, and we'll be discussing all of that. The PowerPoint was done in a rush, so you'll see also that in some places it will refer to please click here. So it's just in line with the user guide. So when you do use your user guide and there's a section that you want to skip, you can just click here and it will, skip all the other sections that you won't be needing. So in terms of this spreadsheet, there's hyperlinks then for that. If you need to go to the template, if you want to go only to the CSV file, or if you want to skip and go to the notepad section, the manual has been set up in such a way, and the PowerPoint, that you can then skip information that you feel comfortable with. So that's just an overview on the first-time users. I'm just going to go on to the next screen. So this is the most important, I think, problem for, besides the notepad file, was the actual computer settings. Now, everybody's using different versions of Windows, and in terms of getting to your control panel, if you are a Windows 10 user, your easiest way would be to just type in your search section. So what we've done is we've marked it for you in steps. You can go to your Windows panel and just search, type in the search bar control panel, and we've made screenshots for even easy navigation. So if you type in control panel, the word in there, and then you click on open control panel, the control panel dialog box will open, and you will need to go to the regional settings. Now, in the example that the UIF provided, they were using an older version of Windows, and in that version, it was set as regional and language settings. So easiest, just go to your magnifying glass, type in control panel, launch control panel, and then click on regional settings. This is the example that the UIF has provided to everybody via the website and also via the email. Now, a lot of people are not is not always sure how to get with the older version to the Windows or the File Explorer. So the easiest way would be just to click on your Windows icon on your keyboard and then just type in Control Panel. So in some cases, if you do type and you click on your Windows and icon at the bottom where it shows your number 1 on the left-hand image, the control panel will open on the side, and you can just click there, and there you will go to regional and language settings. So to set your settings in your control panel, once it's launched, you need to ensure that you are on formats, and then you're going to be clicking on additional settings. From additional settings, you then need to make sure that you are on the numbers tab, which is on the second image. And this is where we'll set the different settings to make sure when you do capture your information in your Excel spreadsheet, and when you do export that or save it in to a CSV file and make your changes in Notepad, that your application will not be rejected. So to change your number settings, the first thing that's recommended is that you change your decimal symbol. The way that you would do that, it's this image here by number 3, is if you click on the drop-down list, it would be the first image, which is your point, and that would then change the comma, if your default was set as a comma, to a point. The second one that you would need to change is the digital grouping symbol, also by clicking on the drop-down list and selecting none. The next one would be the pipe delimiter, and that is situated in the list separator field. And the way that you would set your pipe delimiter, you place your cursor in the field by the drop-down list, and then press Shift and the backspace together, or sorry, backspace together, and that will insert the pipe delimiter for you. Then you would need to go and click on Apply, and then you'll click on OK. Now, I just want to show you an example. On the right-hand side, the image that we've got there is before you change your regional setting or your number settings. If you look at the example where it shows positive number, you would see, because we've changed the digit grouping, there's no commas anymore. So in the example on the left-hand side, if you look at the positive calculation numbering system, there's automatically the spaces and the commas disappeared. It's now there's no commas and the decimal symbol is a point. Is there any questions on the pipe eliminator? Because I know a lot of people struggled with this. Okay, so I can go on.
Well, just hold on.
Sorry, Laura. Sorry, Iva, is there a limit on the attendees? Because
Yes,
I'm getting
sorry.
reports of people wanting to join and they can't
Yes,
get
there is. There's a limit of 150 on attendees, but we will make the recording of this webinar and the attachments available to everybody.
Thank you.
So are there any questions so far on what it is that Laura has covered? Because this has caused a lot of consternation for those companies employing more than 10 people who have in fact to complete the CSV files. Any questions? All right, no questions. Please do me a favor, would you mute your microphone if you do not have any questions to ask? Please mute your microphones. Right, all right, so let's carry on then, Laura.
Okay. The next step would be to change your date settings. The new spreadsheet that they've compiled, they have made some conditional formatting provisions for, but to rather be safe than sorry, we're recommending that everybody do change their date settings. So you would then go on the previous screen, if I can just go back. That was when we launched the dialog box to customize your settings. You had the number field, currency, time, and date. So in this same dialog box, you will just go to date. If your date do not display in the required format, which is 21-APR-2020, then you will need to change your date format, and that is number 3, where you'll need to then just place your cursor in the drop-down list and then type lowercase d hyphen capital M hyphen capital small lowercase y. And then you'll need to click on apply. Then you need to check back whether your date has actually changed to the correct format. And if it has, you can click OK. And once you've clicked OK, you will go back to the regional settings. You can click OK again, and you'll be then logged out, and your date settings has been set, and also your number settings has been set. Okay, so that's it for computer settings. If there's no questions, then we can go on to how to populate the Excel template, and also how to interpret the different fields in terms of the spreadsheet. Okay, right. So we've already recommended that on the master template that you created, a folder that you created for yourself, that you copy that spreadsheet and paste it into your personalized folder. Now, you'll need, once you've opened the spreadsheet, you'll also have to open your own spreadsheet.
Sorry, Laura,
just
before you go forward, I just want to use the opportunity to take a couple of questions. So the one question Adrian asks is, if you have uploaded your file and it says successfully saved, can we assume that all is correct?
Is it okay? If it's referring to the online application, at this point in time, your application has been accepted, but it does not mean that it's being accepted by the system. So until you've received, okay, I'm going to go into that next thing, because I know it's a question that's going to come up. During the last 2 days, well, since Monday, numerous people has received funding or payments into their accounts, and they have not received the breakdown of the payments. So apparently that will be sent to employers within the next 2 days or 3 days, giving them a breakdown of exactly what was paid in accordance with the submission. But if you do not receive payment, and your CSV file and you submitted a CSV file and there were any errors in the system, kicked it out, you will then be notified in writing by the UIF. I'm not sure whether they're going to tell you in that notification what is incorrect and what is what the problems are, and that is why this manual is then why we're trying to try and sort out the CSV file, because we during the last 3 weeks never got any feedback in terms of exactly what was wrong in your application. All you received back was that it was incorrect and you need to submit again.
So,
So
Laura, one other question. If you, this is from Neil, if you convert to CSV using your payroll package, Sage or VIP, do you still have to check the computer settings?
if you are not using the template provided by the UIF, I've been told that Sage has made apparently a spreadsheet available for their payroll. I haven't seen that template, so I can only speak from my point of view in terms of the spreadsheet received from the UIF and converting that template to a CSV file and then making the adjustments in Notepad. So if you're using the spreadsheet that was provided by Sage, my suggestion would still be to follow the guidelines maybe in this guide, just to compare the Notepad fields when you do before you submit it to the UIF, just to compare the two options. Well, the UIF spreadsheet in terms of the Sage spreadsheet.
Okay, excellent. Let's move on.
Okay. All right. So general information in terms of the spreadsheet, all fields highlighted in the learner guide or the user guide, sorry, the user guide, we've color coded it, means it is mandatory fields. That's also in your spreadsheet, and all the mandatory fields must be completed. The list of common errors was failure to complete mandatory errors, mandatory fields, and that's why the applications were rejected. Also, failure to complete the mandatory fields according to the data type requirements, and we're referring to the dates and the values in the numerical fields. And then when people also completed fields when they thought that the information wasn't applicable, they would then capture NA or type out not applicable, and that was also rejected by the system. So it's very important that you do populate your spreadsheet for every mandatory field, and we'll go through all those fields now. So in terms of your general fields, the UIF provided a list in terms of the column name, the data type, the maximum length of each field, and we've added a note field in terms of our experience in the last 3 weeks, feedback that we've received from applicants who were successful, who have contacted over the last 2 days, who gave us feedback where we consulted with them in terms of different fields, how they captured their CSV files, how they captured online, just to make sure that the information is corresponding. So it's really important to understand that the data type fields has a huge or tremendous impact on when you're going to export your data to the CSV format, and also when you are going to use your notepad features. So character fields could be a combination of numeric and alphanumeric characters. Always look at your column name and also the maximum length to make sure that you are completing your spreadsheet correctly. Date fields, we've already covered that, and I think everybody should be clear by now that the date format is the format that we've just indicated, where it's 27-MAR, that's the shutdown date, 2020. Any date field must be in this specific format. Numeric fields, you are only going to capture numbers, no points, no spaces, and we try to bring that in as many times as possible as reminders for you to double check on your spreadsheet that you don't have any conflicting data in your spreadsheet. So in terms of the actual spreadsheet, if we start with the UIF reference number, we've covered that. If you don't have your UIF reference number, you can now obtain your reference number from the actual UIF website, and it is an 8-digit number, and it must be captured according to this format. So it will be with the slash, the shutdown from date. Now, if you're going to be submitting online currently, the date range is from the 27th of March until the shutdown date, 30 April. I am going to stop here and just mention that if you've submitted online last week and Thursday, I've spoken to the UIF this morning, because when they opened, I think Wednesday and Thursday, there were 2 date ranges available online. The first date range was from the 27th of March to the 16th of April, and then the next date range was from the 17th of April until the 30th of March. The UIF has confirmed this morning that you do not need to resubmit for the second period, because if you go online now, there's only 1 date range available, which is from the 27th of March until the 30th of April. Provided that your CSV was submitted correctly, your application will be processed accordingly to the new dates. If your CSV file had any errors in, you will be notified by the UIF that your application was not approved, which will then mean you'll need to resubmit again. And that would probably be because CSV information was incorrect, or bank details couldn't be confirmed or verified. So those are the 2 main reasons at this point in time why a submission would be rejected. The next field that we confirmed was the trade name. There was a lot of confusion with the trade name. We were told that the trade name must be the trade name as you are registered with the UIF. The UIF has confirmed for the 3rd time that you can use the trade name that reflects with SARS. We've noticed that the UIF trade names for quite a number of companies are different from the registered trade name with SARS, and also that it's different from the trade name on your CIPRO documents. So I'm just going to stop here if anybody's got any questions on this slide. Okay, so we can go on. Okay, so the next column is E, F, G, and H. That's your pay-as-you-earn number, contact number, email address, ID number, and passport number. The pay-as-you-earn number in this example is blank. Remember, when you go online and you...
Sorry, Trevor speaking. I wonder, I submitted the date range from the 27th to the 17th, but it said to put in the contributions that you paid your employees, and I only put up to those dates. So the new date range to the 30th of April, would that double that amount because it's only for those 3 weeks? Because I didn't want to put in extra amount of money that up to the 30th of April, where the date range only said from the 27th to the 17th of April. How would that work?
Okay, the contributions you are referring to, are you talking about the remuneration in terms of...
To employees over the shutdown period.
Okay. Trevor, if you don't mind, we are going to get to that slide, and then I will answer your question in that slide.
I'll unmute. I'll mute, thanks.
CB?
Right. Yes, CB.
Can I talk?
Yes.
Okay. We have got one company with 2 different trade names. We've put it all in one spreadsheet. Will that be part of a problem or not?
Okay, so let's just look at the trade name. I'm just going to go back 1 slide. The trade name had 120 characters. Now, did you submit online?
Okay. We've submitted online, yes.
All right. When you submitted online and you registered as an employer, what trade name did you capture against your UIF reference number?
It was, we've got one company, and we have changed from one branch to another. So at the, I'm sure at SARS, it will be on the company name.
But we put the trade.
All right.
But the trade names are also there.
Okay. From my understanding, they're going to be verifying your information as you captured it online as an employer with your entity's trade name, your bank confirmation letter, and they will also be verifying that with SARS. So obviously, if you've captured the information as you're paying over your monthly pay as you earn and UIF and SDL, I don't foresee it being a problem in your spreadsheet, as long as your bank details and everything reflects the same trade name. Is that the case?
Okay. Yes, no, I don't think it does. Just to give you a little bit of background, we submitted, it was accepted, and we got yesterday a payment, but it's like 500 Rand per employee.
All right. I've also spoken to a number of people who the amount that has been paid over to their accounts, because we haven't received the feedback forms yet from SARS, from the UIF confirming what has been paid out. You'll have to wait for that to see, why you've been paid a lesser amount. Apparently, some people has received 2 payments, but you'll need to wait for that confirmation document from the UIF to compare, why you received a lesser amount. Unfortunately,
Okay, thank you
nobody's
very much.
Unfortunately, nobody's in possession of that A3, so we've really tried to get hold of an A3, but the A3 has not been issued as far as we could establish until before the webinar, which makes it very difficult to comment on. All right, so if we go back to the next screen.
Sorry, just on that, Laura. Sorry,
yes.
Laura, sorry. Just on that point of receiving the bulk payment, but without the bulk breakdown, but without the individual breakdown per employee. What about, because mine also doesn't reconcile at all to what I expected, but what about the fact, I think it said in the memorandum, the MOA, that you had to pay employees within 2 days of receiving the funds from the UIF. So what do you do then?
For my understanding from the UIF, when I spoke to them this morning, was that you have to wait for that letter, because it's not the end of the month yet. If you look at the undertaking, I'm going to try and see where that slide. Okay, there is. I am going to go to the undertaking a little bit later, but the undertaking, you need to in the undertaking. It will give you the breakdown, and from the date of signing that undertaking, you've got then 2 days to pay your employers or your employees. So in the MOU, it also refers to that undertaking. So my understanding from the UIF is you have to wait until you get that feedback from them before you make any payments to your employees.
Okay, great. Thanks. I'll mute. Thanks, Laura.
Thanks. All right, so if we go back to the pay as you earn number.
Hi, Laura.
Yes.
Hi. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I think I missed it when you spoke about it. So I initially applied for the first lockdown. You were saying that do we need to apply for the second lockdown, or they automatically are going to take it together?
All right. Are you referring to the first period, which was in the 27th
April? 27 to 16 April.
According to the UIF, you don't need to make any adjustments. They will make the necessary adjustments, provided that your CSV file is correct. If your CSV file is incorrect, they will then notify you, and then only you will need to resubmit. But you'll need to wait for feedback from the UIF.
Oh, all right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we can move on then. In terms of your template, your ID number, you've got the option of either the ID number or the passport number. You'll need to submit, obviously, a valid ID number or a passport number, not both, because the field does make provision for 30 characters. Please don't make that error. Your ID number is 13 digits and your passport numbers has got alphanumerical characters in it. Please do not put any spaces when you capture your passport numbers. If you do, it will be rejected by the system. So that is our fields for pay as you earn. Contact number, contact number and email address would be the contact number of the employer and the email address of the employer. Okay, so the next is where you need to complete your staff or your employee information. The first name, obviously last name, and then the controversial, okay, sorry, not that one, remuneration monthly, that's fine. There was some people who captured the first name, if, for example, sorry, the last name was the Silva, they would capture the Silva without spaces because it was set without spaces. I did speak to the UIF about trade name, last names, surnames, sorry, first names, or if there's more than one name. The system will not reject the application if there's spaces in alphanumerical fields. It's just in the numerical fields. Field number K is remuneration. That remuneration refers to your UI-19 declaration that was submitted. So you need to capture what was submitted to the UIF. And if the employee remuneration was, for example, in this case, 10,200 Rand to 10,250 Rand, your display value must display as 10 to 100.50. Remember, we removed the comma from the settings in our computer settings. So you can still make that error when you do capture your Excel spreadsheet and the amounts manually, or if you're going to be copying and pasting from existing payrolls and you copy that information in. If you do not set these settings in your computer settings, and you've got commas in your own spreadsheet, you can make that error. So please go and double check that when you do bring over your information and you haven't set your computer settings, that the display value must have no commas, no spaces, and that there must be the point must be used. Okay, going on to the employment start date, there it is obviously the self-explanatory. Again, please make sure that.
Laura,
Yes.
if it's a round amount with an cents, do you still have to put 0.00?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That's my understanding, yeah. All right. Employment start date. Now, employment end date, when I spoke to UIF this morning again about this is one of the non-mandatory fields. You do not have to complete anything here. I can only speak for myself. Most applicants that we've spoken to has left this field blank. We will not be terminating employment at the end of the month for any of our employees, and we have therefore left it blank as well. And also, if you refer to the UIF examples that they've provided, this field was left blank. So,
sorry, Laura, let me just come in here and say this. Ladies and gentlemen, please be very, very cautious that you do not indicate that you intend to terminate employment, because quite frankly, it's an illegality to terminate employment at the end of the lockdown. Even if you initiated your Section 189 process before the lockdown, long before the COVID process, be very, very careful that you're not indicating to the UIF, which is the Department of Labor, that you intend to participate in an illegality, which is the termination of your employees, because we have regulations in place that say you cannot terminate for purposes of the lockdown. You can terminate for other reasons, but then you would have had to have pre-initiated the Section 189 process, or you would have had to have already stayed a disciplinary inquiry that was already completed or en route to being completed before lockdown commenced. I cannot stress enough, you do not in a document like this indicate to the Department of Labor, which is responsible as the upper guardian of all employees, that you intend to participate in an illegality towards your employees. Any questions in that regard in terms of disciplinary process, Section 189, or the termination of your employees? Good. All right, let's carry on. Sorry to interrupt, Laura.
No problem. All right. So the next.
Hi. Hi,
yes.
Laura.
Yes.
Yes.
With regards to the date, the end date, I think what we have done is not because we are ending the employment, but we had put their last day of working, which was, when the lockdown started, in the spreadsheet.
No, that's fine.
Would that be a problem?
No, there's no problem with that.
Oh.
That is for the purpose of the temporary layoff. So the whole reason for being able to justify the UIF-TR payment to you is that it is an insurance policy covered by the Unemployment Insurance Fund, because for a temporary period of time, which is the period of the lockdown, these employees are without work. So there's no problem in that, as long as that doesn't become your permanent date of essentially unemployment.
Not at all. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I also ask? Can I ask, please? What if the company was not shut down in full and the staff took a sacrifice? Would we still qualify then for TES?
If the company is partially essential services and partially not essential services, then you need to clarify. You can submit on behalf of the employees who are shut down, but you would need to upload a supplementary document or letter to the effect that you are part. And you would need to evidence the fact to the Department of Labor and UIF that in fact that temporary layoff affected a grouping of your employees and how you communicated that with your employees. That the Department of Labor does reserve the right to investigate those partials.
Sorry, can I add a question to that? If your staff had to take a salary sacrifice due to the lockdown because a lot of clients haven't paid you, could you apply for the church benefit for the percentage or part of the salary sacrifice?
No. The salary sacrifice is dealt with in a completely different way. So either your employees are completely laid off for the period of the lockdown because you have locked your business down, or your employees individually would apply to the Unemployment Insurance Fund for the portion of their salary that they have had to sacrifice because they've got shorter hours or for whatever other reason. And you would give a letter to support them, and they would then take that to the Unemployment Insurance Fund and apply individually. That is not the TER. That's not the Temporary Employment Relief Fund. That is the ordinary insurance policy that you pay UIF for to the Department of Labor, that they are covered for either being dismissed or retrenched or in fact laid off. Good. Thank you, Laura. Please continue.
Thank you. Okay, so the next column is sector minimum wage. There again, please do not use any commas or spaces, and you'll need to record the applicable sector wage. Now, in our instance, we do not belong to specific sectors, so we were advised to record the 3,500 amount, and that is what we recorded as the sector minimum wage. I've also spoken to other applicants, and they've done the same in terms of the sector minimum wage, and the applications were approved. So I don't foresee any problem because it is a mandatory field that if you record the 3,500, that would cause any problems. The next field, remuneration received during the shutdown period, caused a lot of concerns for a lot of people. I did confirm with the UIF this morning again, and also with the other applicants who were successful and who has received payouts, that they all recorded this as a zero amount. So for the period of April, because you haven't actually paid yet, so you must record zero. If you have made a payment to an employee during the month of April, you will then need to record the amount that was paid over to that employee in April, and that is between the period of 27 March and the 30th of April. I asked this question myself because all our staff was paid until the 30th of April, and because the date range has changed from the 27th to the 30th, it's not going to make, according to the UIF, any difference to the amount that's going to be paid for the period, because you'll either get the minimum of 3.5 or the amount that they've then calculated. So the remuneration received during the shutdown period, we were advised to then, if you haven't made any payment, record a zero amount. Okay, yeah, Again, new information came through this morning in terms of the bank account details that must be captured by the employer. Now, if you go online and if you register the first time, or if you've registered already, we've already mentioned this, that you as the employer will be required to capture your entity bank details, and you will also then need to submit the confirmation of your bank account details. Employers who's got more than 10 employees, when they compile the Excel spreadsheet, the employer's bank details needs to be captured in these fields and not the employee's bank details. In the MOA, originally it stated that if you've got less than 10 employees, you need to capture the bank account details of your employees. Now, it still refers to that in the in the MOA under clause 15. And after I've spoken to the UIF this morning, because of the tremendous pressure that they are under, they've now changed this. And if there are any individuals online, they'll be able to confirm this as well. If you do capture 4 or 5 staff members and you've registered as the entity with your bank details, there is no fields for these employers or for your employees' bank information. So the amounts are now going to be paid out to the employers to expedite the payments to the staff members. So I'm not sure if anybody's got any questions on that. This will obviously be also when you get your payments and when you get your approval, the amounts that's being paid will then be reflected as in terms of your application. For auditing purposes, I would just suggest keep your bank details of your the staff members that you've captured, and just make sure that later on you've got your necessary documents in terms of if there's an audit, that you have paid the employers the actual amounts, because I think that was their main concern, and that's why they didn't want to pay the money to the employer. But they have made changes to this. If you've submitted, from my understanding, they will not reject the spreadsheet or the CSV if you've indicated pay to employee or pay to the employer. It's my understanding that will be the amount will now be paid to the employer and not to the employee. All right, this is the form that we were referring to earlier in terms of the legal undertaking, and also this is a form that would is part of your online process, and it's part of the MOA that you will also then need to accept online before you can go on to the next screen. But this is where everybody's referring to the approval letter, which is referred to as the A3 letter. And this is what SARS said, UIF said to me this morning again, that you need to wait receipt of this confirmation per your approval letter, because that approval letter will tell you in writing the amounts that was paid or the amounts that was allocated as per your submission for each employee before you then make the payment. So in terms of the MOA referring to that you must pay the amount within 2 days, in this document it clearly states, in number 1.4, I understand and accept that I shall await receipt of confirmation per approval letter, in inverted commas A3, before you make your payments to the employees.
Can I come in here just with 1 or 2 comments or questions? All right, I just want to go to Sandy's question, Sandy Fair. If your employees were able to only partially work from home, not fully, can you still apply? Sandy, if you're not locked down, the principle is this: if you are not shut down as a business and you are trading partially or fully as a business, then you cannot claim temporary employee relief from the Unemployment Insurance Fund. However, if you are operating but on a part-time basis or on a reduced hours basis, your employees can go to the Unemployment Insurance Fund and claim that their salary has been cut, their hours have been cut. In other words, they can claim in their own right. Here is the evidence that ordinarily, not just because of the lockdown, but ordinarily I have lost hours and I have lost income. That's what the UIF insurance policy is there for, and that's what UIF have to pay them on a sliding scale, obviously, but they have to, in fact, make good on those losses in hours as long as they can substantiate it, because you've given them a letter of but you can't do both. In other words, you cannot apply for TER, which is I'm 100% locked down and my employees are 100% out of work or laid off, and then also apply for reduced hours. It doesn't work like that. So that's critically important for you to know. Would there be a problem if we entered the employee's bank details? I think, Laura, if I understand you correctly, what you've said is the default payment will be made back to the employer rather than the employee. Am I right in saying that? Or are you saying that if the employee's details are entered, the payment will be made to the employees?
From my understanding this morning from the UIF was that the payments are going to be made to the employers because they want to expedite the whole process. Because so many, I think, errors were made on bank. Sorry, I think I've missed that important. I'll go back to that now. But because so many errors with bank details were experienced by the UIF. I'm sure if everybody listened to the minister talking and about the information that was given out on the number of applications that was rejected, one of the biggest problems was confirming bank details and validating bank details. And I think to make the process quicker, they've decided to revert back to the employer bank details, and that's why they're going to be paying out to the employer. I'm not sure if any other claims were paid into the employees' accounts, because it was a big concern for small or employers that's got less than 10 employees. How would you be able to validate that the amount was actually paid to the employee if the employee is not in a position to confirm it with you, especially if you want to top up and you do have the means to top up the salaries between what the TERS fund's paying out and what the actual salary was. So my understanding is it's going to be paid to the employer.
All right. And then can I also say this? Fatima asked something very interesting. She says, some employees have an asylum. Can I input this number? Fatima, the bottom line is this. If your employees have a work permit, which means they're entitled to work in South Africa, you've employed them, and importantly, you've been paying UIF on their behalf for more than 3 months, you are entitled to claim TER, Temporary Employee Relief, on behalf of those individuals, because you would also have a PAYE number if necessary on their behalf. So as long as they have a work permit for South Africa, you're entitled to have employed them, you're entitled to pay UIF on their behalf, you're entitled to claim TER. All right, excellent. Let's carry on there, Laura.
Okay. All right, so we've just added this agreement in the event that you don't have a copy of this. All right, here's the bank information. Now, the bank name is obviously the employer bank name, and also here's the big problem was also with the branch codes. You must use the universal branch code. A lot of banks, for example, Standard Bank did not have a 0 in front, I think, of the 5, so you needed to add a 0. Capitec was a very long number, and they only want, although the field makes provision for maximum of 10 characters, they wanted the universal bank code, which is only 6 digits. I did not have time to go and add all the bank codes, but if you Google it and consult Dr. Google, you'll be able to find the relevant universal bank codes if the bank is not listed on this list. Then the account type, it's very important to just use the numeric number. So if you've got a current account, you will only indicate in your spreadsheet a 1. And then if you're obviously in the next field, your account number, please do not add any spaces or anything. It must be your account number. And then the preferred payment method would then be to the employer, which will be a 2. And like I said, I'm not dealing with the bargaining councils. At this point in time, it's just for employers and people who are submitting on behalf of other employers. All right, so once you've completed your spreadsheet, my recommendation is that you save a copy of your spreadsheet, and then save another one as a test before you attempt to do your CSV conversion and you make your corrections in Notepad. That way, if you do make any mistakes, you've always got your master that you can go back to and you can try again. You'll be using that same spreadsheet for your next submission, where you will just need to make changes to your dates. So my recommendation is keep one copy separate, and then you just use one as a test before you then do your corrections. So I'm not sure if there's any questions on the spreadsheet. We'll be going into the CSV section now and how to convert the CSV. Okay. So the easiest way for you to convert your CSV is once you've opened your test Excel spreadsheet in Excel, you will go and save as. Then you'll select your destination folder in terms of wherever you've created your folder where you're going to be saving your documents in, and you will then save the file with the name, sorry, I didn't put that in, but your file name, which you'll need to save your CSV file, would need to be your UIF reference number without the backslash, underscore the date. Please do not put any spaces in between, _1. So you'll need to say, okay, sorry, we did have it there. You'll need to save it there. We did give the reference number. So it is your 8-digit underscore. And then when you submit your second submission for the next period, they've indicated that you'll then do the underscore as a 2 for the unique sequencing number. And then here, when you save as, you're going to need to go to the drop-down list, and under the save file type, you'll be able to see the CSV format. You'll need to choose that, and it's as simple as then just clicking on save, and your file would then be saved as a CSV file. The important step is that...
Would you mind just going through that one more time for us, please, with the name, file name, and how to save it?
Okay, I'll go back. Okay, so from Excel, you will then just go and click on the back button. So if the file's open, you're just going to go one button back, go to the drop-down option or on the green side, yeah, to save as, to number 2, choose your destination folder, type in your file name, which is then discussed in the following page. In your user guide, what you can do is you can copy the name to another document if you're worried that you're going to be making a mistake, but you can always rename it from File Explorer. So the name that you must save it with would be your UIF reference number, underscore, date of submission, _1. And please note that this date of submission is the date that you'll be submitting your submission online. And here's an example at the bottom. So it would be your 8-digit number, UIF number, without the backslash, underscore, date, no spaces in between your date, _1. And again, the date must be the date of submission. This will be in the user guide, and we will also then obviously Ivor will give you the PowerPoint presentation. So here we'll go back. You're going to be saving as into the file that you've created for yourself. Any questions on the CSV, saving as a CSV? Okay. Once you save as, you'll be prompted in some cases with 2 warning messages, in some cases.
Sorry, Laura, can I ask something quickly?
Yes.
Sorry, it took me a little while to unmute. Just to clarify on that file name, I thought that the last digit, the 1 and the 2 and everything, that because your date changes when you submit the second time, that you would still submit with a 1. So next month, your file name will be UIF underscore date in May _1. And the purpose of that 1 and the 2 at the end is, for example, like what happened with me is I submitted my file a day or so ago with _1, and then after I'd submitted, I picked up that I'd made an error, and I then submitted the file again, and I then changed it to _2 at the end.
Okay, let me just go back. Yeah, so yes, so that's correct. Yeah, so you will save it in if you've made any errors and you submit it the second time with the _2. I must be honest, I did not ask for May.
The second time for the same period.
For the
as
same
opposed
period.
to the second time.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
All right. So when you click save, you'll be prompted with a warning message. Everybody does not get this warning message, and if you've converted the CSV files a few times, you'll be prompted with either one of these messages. The most important thing is that you just need to read what the message is saying, and you'll just be able to then click on OK or the yes button. And then you'll need to close the file with the arrow as indicated here. I must be honest, when we save our files, we don't close it there. We just, when you get the prompt for the warning message, you go OK and you go yes, and then you save. And we haven't had any problems. We literally did not have to go and close the file in step number 9. But if you experience any problems, rather than follow that process. But we were able to save with a warning message by clicking on OK, clicking on yes, and then just saving the file. All right, this is one of the most important steps of this entire process after you've populated your file, and that's using Notepad to make the necessary changes. I am waiting for feedback and a call from the UIF. They promised that they're going to be phoning me back today. So we're holding thumbs on this. But we've picked up 2 major errors after we've consulted with some programmers in terms of how the Notepad changes, and when you make these changes and then attaching or uploading your CSV file after you've made these changes could affect the fact that your application has been rejected. Not necessarily because of information that was captured correctly in your spreadsheet, but purely because of fields in the Notepad section that wasn't deleted. So we'll go through that now. And please remember, we've added a lot of additional information, especially for users that are not computer literate, because the intention is to make this available to everybody. So to open your CSV file, you'll need to go to File Explorer and open the file from the folder that you've created. And you'll need to locate the CSV file. You'll need to make 100% sure that you are using the right file. So if you don't know how to identify whether you are working with a CSV file, we recommended that you then go to your View tab in File Explorer, change it to an extra large icon, and to identify whether you're working in the comma separated file, it will look different. So the actual file has got an A with a comma, the icon, and that is your CSV file. So you'll then need to right click on that file, go open with, and just say click on Notepad, and it will then open it for you in Notepad automatically. So once it's opened in Notepad, it would look like this example here. So what we've done is we've broken it up. The instructions from the UIF was clear on that you need to delete the row header 1 from the Notepad field. I just want to explain this here for in case there's anybody that hasn't done this. So from the UIF reference number up to bargaining council, that is the header that came from the Excel spreadsheet. The next row with the 0003 number is the actual employee record. In this example, it's only one employee record. And then the pipelines at the bottom represents extra empty rows in Excel. Please note that the color coding is just used for demonstration purposes and will not appear in the Notepad document. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to select all the text that form part of the header text, and you can just then select it by dragging it or selecting it, and by pressing delete. You'll then need to insert the header above the employee record. And the header format there that is required is H, pipeline delimiter, and the date. I am waiting for the UIF to confirm with us, because everybody we've spoken to some people have submitted this header as per the example that the UIF provided to us about 2 weeks ago. This same text file is currently available on their website when you do go online and you download the sample documents. And this information is conflicting from also the information that's been given by them, how this date must be recorded. In the example that they've provided it as H, pipe delimiter date, and then your date format. But in the explanation, they've left out the date and they've asked you to save it as H, pipe delimiter with the actual date, like it's here in the black formatting. So we have submitted our dates with H, pipe delimiter 20 April 2020. And I have spoken to 1 or 2 individuals who did submit it with the date and then the actual date, whose applications were approved. We're not sure how sensitive the system is in terms of this, and that's why we're waiting for the call from the UIF, because the call center was not able to answer me on this. My suggestion would be for you to capture it as H, pipe delimiter date, to be on the safe side. So once you've deleted and you've typed in your date, that's in the number 7 image, that's how it will appear. The next step would be to insert the footer of your last employee record. And again, it would be F for footer, pipe delimiter, and the 1 represents the number of total employees you are going to submit in your application. So if you've got 30 employees, it will be 30. Now, the next step is also important. Once you've completed your footer, we recommend that you put your cursor behind the number and all the pipe delimiters, all the additional rows, that you need to delete those rows until there's no more pipe delimiters left. In the sample that the UIF currently is on the website online, they also have done it the exact same way. And if you look at the example, it ends then the record after the footer, pipe delimiter, and a 1. So once you verified this, you can close it. And the best would be to verify whether your file has saved correctly is not by opening it in Excel. You need to open it in Notepad again to make sure that your data displays correctly. Once it displays correctly, you can save it and close it, and your file will be ready for submission. Is there any questions on the Notepad file?
Yeah, I've got one.
Yes.
When I exported, or when I opened in Word, mine imported a whole lot of pipe delimiters after the line. So at the end of, you've got an example there of 1 employee, but I had a few of them that had quite a few after the line. Obviously, I could clear it on the header, but I've got 110 employees. Are you meant to clear those separators after every employee line as well?
Did you have separators in between employee lines?
Correct. The separators were as yours are shown there.
Yeah.
But it's just that it's not complete. So you've only stopped it at the 30th of April. It carries on and on and on. When you get to the end of that employee, there were a couple of pipes there. It would then go to the next line, would be the next employee and the next employee. But I had pipes at the end. I didn't know if anybody else has experienced that and whether they had deleted it or not.
Okay, so normally the pipes, if you've got a whole row of pipes, that indicates that that's an empty row. So in one row, there would be certain fields that would have a pipe with a blank and a pipe, because those are the fields that was not mandatory, which you did not complete. If you had more than 1 or 2 or 3 pipes in one row for 1 employee, it means that there was information that was not populated. So that if there's a pipe, no information pipe, no information pipe, it means that it's fields that wasn't completed.
Yeah, no, I understood that. I'm saying mine was at the end because it represents columns at the end.
Yeah, no, as long as you put place your cursor after your number, just keep on deleting until there's no more pipes left, and then you save it.
Sure.
Then it will not bring in all those extra records.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Right. Yeah, so that's basically it on the CSV. Once you've submitted your information online, we will make available the online document in terms of how you submit your online documentation. Once you've submitted your information online, you will receive an email from the UIF, which will say that you must not respond to the email and that you have successfully submitted employee details. So, and then obviously it needs to be valid, accurate, and complete. And they also indicate that payment will be processed within 10 days. This does not mean that there's no errors on your CSV file that you've submitted. It's just a confirmation that they've received your application. If there's anything wrong with your CSV, you will be notified. The good news is that the people that's been capturing on Thursday and Friday already started receiving funds on Monday and Tuesday. Unfortunately, we don't have the confirmation letters yet, but as soon as we've got an example, we will also add an example onto the user guide for people to have as a frame of reference.
Sorry, can I ask something?
Yes.
So I've submitted Thursday and Friday, got this message that you've just shown. How do we know if the file isn't correct, or when will they come back to us? Can I phone someone? Do we just wait, or?
My suggestion would be if you look, they are under tremendous pressure, and they have, obviously, depending on how big your payroll is, and I think in terms of validating information, the people that I've spoken to who's received funding were not big employers. It was mostly employers that had a maximum of about 20 employees, and then a few smaller employees who had less than 10, where the funding was paid over into their bank accounts. So I would say tomorrow's, I think, what's today? Tuesday. I would say give it maybe another day, and you've got nothing to lose to phone the call center just to confirm. If when they phone me, I will try and find out how long do you need to give, how long must you wait before you contact them. The best time to phone is definitely 4 to 8 in the mornings, and you keep on phoning until you.
Yes, I know.
Until they pick up.
When I was doing it online as well, I mean, I found that, like I did a Friday afternoon at 5, it went smoothly. But so you basically have to wait, I mean, until they come back and say, well, we don't accept your CSV file, etc.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you. They are, I think, processing the documents as soon as possible. I will try and find out as well, if you haven't heard anything in 7 days, especially, why did you submit twice?
Sorry?
You said you submitted twice. Was it for different
No.
individuals?
I did come on the Thursday, because we also break ours into different companies with different UIF numbers. So I did like 2 companies, and then I needed banking details, etc. So I did a Thursday, and then I did some more on Friday.
All right. Yeah, so unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Claudine.
I just want to find out, just like the previous lady, I first submitted it through the manual way, and immediately thereafter I received, well, not immediately, a few minutes later, then I had to do the whole thing online. But how come when you go into the website, you can't see anything that you've done? It doesn't, is it just the way the website's been set up?
Are you talking about importing after you've imported your CSV file?
Yes, there's like, you know, I mean, it's not like keeping history. So I've got the same query because I submitted last week on the, I think it was the 16th or so. And I've also, we're not many people, we're only 11 or 11 staff members. So we're very small. But now, and to try and get hold of the call center is virtually impossible. You cannot get through on that number
Guys,
whatsoever.
can I come in here? Can I come in here? I just want to, could just please mute your microphones. So Mara Lee sent through an interesting comment. She says this: the call centers can't help you according to them. There is a different department dealing with it. They gave us the following email to inquire: COVID-19 TERS support@labour.gov.za. Also, an email was sent last week stating that you should resubmit. So the bottom line is that there is very haphazard communication. I've got a feeling that after lockdown is lifted and things are back to normal, there is going to be an inquiry into who the Department of Labour actually commissioned, contracted, and how much was spent on the development of this system, because quite frankly, it looks like the system was written by an idiot in a blindfold. You can't go back, you can't edit anything, you can't, it just doesn't have the functionality of a normal website, and one can only think that it was developed in a very quick way, presumably by someone who wasn't paid, but knowing government departments, I would imagine millions of rands have changed hands here. Now, I say that for a reason. I say that because what most people are complaining about is the lack of functionality, the inability to edit, the inability to change things, the inability to remediate or send emails asking questions, etc., etc. So you've got to basically be set in your mind that this system is one which is going to take your information and at some stage is going to spew out a letter to you to say that it was rejected, please resubmit, if it allows you to resubmit. It is that imperfect. Laura, I don't know if you have the same view, because you've been interacting with the technical people who've been writing the system. It just seems to me that it has not been written by any professional developer, and there seems to be no comeback on responsibility here.
I'm waiting for them, you know, every time you phone and you've got queries, especially in terms of the CSV or the notepad file, to get clarification on that. I've been told by the support guys at the call center that they cannot assist me and that somebody will contact me back. It is frustrating when you do upload your CSV file that the data is not reflecting. That's why I really want to import to employers who's got less than 10 people, or where you can manage to capture your staff members yourself, to rather go and capture it online as opposed to importing your CSV, because strangely enough, those records are available. So if you do go back to records that you've captured yourself, you can edit those records, not after you've submitted though, apparently not after you've submitted, but yes, I think the CSV file, while that's not available yet, I think maybe in next month, once the information has been validated and it does comply with the database requirements, maybe it will be available then, but I unfortunately don't have the answer. But I understand it is frustrating.
All right.
Not
Okay, perfect. So let's move on. Sorry, Laura, I interrupted you. I'm just acutely aware of the fact that we're going massively over the time we set aside for this, but thank you. I mean, I think your advice and your insight is admirable. Plus, of course, the fact that you have a guide that you've prepared, this guide that we will be making available, as well as this recording of the webinar. Laura, have I cut you short? Are there other things you want to chat about?
Not at the moment. I would rather prefer just speaking to the UIF again, and then we can rather just update everybody that was part of the webinar, if we get validation on some of the questions that we've got.
All right, fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, can I say this to you, that if you do have any questions, particularly if you've got an issue of half, you know, half essential services, non-essential services, etc., if you can send us an email, and we will try then to give you general feedback which hopefully will stand in good stead in one way or another. I'm not necessarily saying we'll have all the answers, but we will certainly try to give you as many of them as we can possibly give. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. I know that those of you who have been submitting without CSV files might not have got as much out of this session as those of you who've had to, the medium to large size businesses that employ more than 10 people and the small businesses. But nevertheless, I hope you found it useful. Laura, I cannot tell you how grateful I am to you for the fact that you've been prepared to run this webinar for us. It's as clear as mud, but that's through no fault of yours, I must say that. So thank you very, very much for everything you've done. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you found this session useful.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ivo, just what is the email address that we can contact you on, please?
I think that the easiest would be, I'm just trying to see if I cannot just get the screen back from Laura, and it doesn't matter. The easiest will be Ivorb, I-V-O-R-B, at ARC, A-R-K, and then K-O-N-S-U-L-T, ARC Consult, one word, ARC Consult, at gmail.com, Ivorb at ARC Consult, Ivorb at arcconsult.com, Ivorb at arcconsult.com, and I'll be only too happy then to share as much information as we have. We'll also post answers as we get them onto the WhatsApp groups. I know that Laura, as she speaks to the UIF and has more answers, we'll post each of those onto the group just to keep giving you information as we get it. So thank you, everybody. Thank you. Yes.
Can I just, how do I get onto the WhatsApp group? I came in a bit late on this meeting because I kept on trying and it kept on saying it was full.
Yes. All right. So if you want to get onto a WhatsApp group, do me a favor. Just send an email to that same email address and we'll add you to the WhatsApp group. That's Ivorb at arcconsult.com, and we will add you to that WhatsApp group. Thank you, guys. And thank you all for your time and for your patience and for your attendance. It's been great. I hope you found it useful, and we'll chat later.